fuck up. Welcome to the podcast for the recently released. I'm your host, Louis Stardust.
And I'm your co-host, Mo Jatisa.
There we go. That's it. All right, thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
We're not canceling it now.
No.
Now that we're in the groove.
Well, welcome to episode 51, in case you missed it.
Oh, yeah.
We are very lately uploading episode 50 to the regular streaming sites.
Yeah.
Because our audio got cut from what we record with. So that should be up now. If you missed it already, go ahead and listen to it. If you didn't hear it, though, and it's been out for a couple weeks and you didn't realize, we have a YouTube channel where we're uploading all of our more recent episodes. Since we're both home during quarantine, we've had time to sit down and film a little bit more. We created a pretty cute little studio space.
Yeah, you can see us on.
Yeah, so if you want to check us out on there, it's just the same name. But what are we going to be talking about today?
All right, today we are going to get into a few things. We are going to get into a TV show called The Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Then we are also going to go into a movie called The Lodge. Then after that, we are going to dive into a little bit of updates on some comic book news. I feel like we haven't talked much about comic books lately, so we're going to get into a little bit of that. And then just any other random updates on stuff maybe we've been playing or watching.
I just want to say that something's been happening during this quarantine, show binging thing, because we watched The Stranger, and the actress that was in there was from Ant-Man and Wasp, right? And that's where this all kind of spread. Then the actor from The Stranger was in
The Lodge.
The Lodge. But also I've been watching Buffy, and the guy who plays Giles in that, Anthony Stewart Head, was in The Stranger. And so they're all connecting to each other as we've been watching things, which I found very interesting.
Yeah, which then if it's a good thing we finished one before the other, because then it would have got confusing.
Well, it's just so funny that they literally lined up that way.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll talk about The Stranger first, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Now, The Stranger... Oh,
you're good.
You want to say something?
No, I'm just shook. I'm just so shook with this
now,
show.
The little summary they give for this show is that it's a web of secrets that sends a family man, Adam Price, on a desperate quest to discover the truth about the people closest to him.
Man, he's always a family man, okay?
Yeah.
So, this guy, I really like this show, okay?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Let's just start off right there. Joe and I always go on Netflix and we make, the watch list, and we add 80 things on there we never watch, and we go back and forth and we fight. We don't really fight, we just go, what are you asked to pick the thing? And we go back and forth. Whatever. We were stuck between this and what was it, the Valhalla Murders or something?
Yeah,
because
Valhalla
we like
Murders.
anything that's not from the U.S. on Netflix original series. There is some good U.S. stuff, but a lot of the foreign things we really like. This was in the U.K. It's not super foreign, but it's not U.S. based, so I thought maybe we should give it a shot, because this premise just seemed like a cool thriller.
Yeah, it looked fun.
And
so
it just seemed like something, because it's one season, so it's short.
Yeah, limited series. I do like limited series lately.
Well, it makes it easy for us to talk about what it is, we don't get to theorize about what would happen after as much, but we could still just get through all of it. Way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it would just be something to watch.
Yeah.
You talked about the premise about his family, correct?
Yeah, they don't really give you in this summary when you look it up a general idea of what's going on.
But they do in the trailer. So in the trailer, it shows that he's at some sort of sporting event. A woman comes up to him and says, you didn't have to stay with your wife long ago. She basically lied to you about something that's really big. I don't know if they say it in the trailer or not, but it winds up being that she faked a pregnancy to get him to stay with her. And she says very specific things like, look at your bank account for this web store, and on this date this happened. Very specific things. Did she hand him an envelope? I don't think so.
I don't think she does, no.
She does that to other people. So
some people get an envelope.
Yeah, and she said, look up this web store. So he goes to his bank. He looks up the date. It's on there, the charge. He calls, winds up figuring out what it is, and it's true that she faked the pregnancy. And so it's all based around her being the stranger, this woman that came up to him.
Yeah.
And she goes around to different people and does the same thing and exposes their secrets.
Yeah.
I know that you're cheating on your wife, or I know that you're a sugar baby, or I know you're this. And Some people she tries to bribe with money.
Yeah.
Some of them she doesn't. But it's basically like she thinks people's lives are getting ruined by secrets and she wants to bring them to light.
Yeah, now don't think by hearing that this is just like a drama series. One thing
But
that we're leaving out
too.
is that when this happens, the only reason anybody should even care about that and what happens next is that after the conflict happens with this man and his wife and he confronts her about it, soon after she disappears. And with her disappearance and that kind of like this woman had a perfect record at her job, you know, well liked in the community, the whole deal.
Yeah.
And so it's totally irrational that it happened. So he's obviously trying to figure it out. And while that's happening, it's coming to, like, I guess, the foreground for him that, like, other people around him may have encountered this stranger and may have been blackmailed or have been told a secret or something, and vice versa, like other people like encounter other people and stuff like that too.
But also at the same time, like there's another story about a llama body being found in like a town square,
yes.
And these two detectives find it. It's an alpaca, I apologize. And these two detectives find it, and they're like a funny duo. I actually really like them a lot. And you wind up finding out that the alpaca is tied to our main character's kids because they went to a party at night and all this crazy shit happened, which
is pretty fucking hilarious.
It's just a big web. Like, you know how we watched Dark, we were like, we need to just get a web to connect all the people. I feel like this show can easily have just a big one and see how everybody.
But it's a limited series, so you don't have to go
it's not as confusing, but it's nice to see how everybody connects to one another with this. I guess we'll get into spoiler heavy territory because it gets fucking crazy.
Yeah, there's some pretty epic stuff. I mean, what you said with the alpaca, first off, basically after the whole situation goes down, the wife disappears or whatever and stuff like that, the next morning when, like, one of the kids wakes up, you see the kids are all acting really funny throughout the day, and you start to wonder what's going on. And then you see the one kid has the alpaca head in a bag in his closet, and you're like, did my man just cut the head off of this thing?
No, but they show the kid showing his friend showing up to the house.
Then they do the little flashback of what they remember, and it's like there's some rocks getting thrown at the window. He looks out the window, and his buddy is high as a kite, smiling with the alpaca head like he ate its head off. Like, there's some really funny, like, weird stuff like that happens, too.
It's... Like, I felt like that storyline didn't entirely need to happen, but it did to connect us to the cops and, like, specific things. I feel like because, what's her name, Caroline or Coraline, the wife?
The wife,
something like that?
What was her name?
Corinne
Price.
Something. I feel like that heavily revolves around Corinne going missing, and it doesn't feel like it's a story about her going missing when it starts. It seems like people are taking it as her running away from her husband because she got exposed, or maybe she's also being blackmailed. And it winds up being way bigger of a story, even with the two cops. I cannot remember the cop's name. Do you have it? The female?
The female cop?
Mm-hmm.
Her name was D.S. Johannes?
Yeah, it seems right.
Something like that.
She is closely linked to a mother who owns a bake shop, and the stranger comes to her with a packet, and it's basically bribing or blackmailing her because the baker lady, her daughter, is on the sugar baby site.
She was Heidi.
Yeah,
right?
Heidi had a daughter, or has a daughter, who was on a sugar baby site, and it was like just super weird, funny stuff like that, which then leads Heidi, it's getting confusing in my head.
Yeah.
So it leads Heidi into basically researching this and trying to figure out where to get the money to get this lady.
I was waiting how you were going to set this up.
Can you let me talk then? How about that? What about that?
I'm letting you go.
Okay.
What are you doing?
I'm checking this because
I think just last time I just accidentally hit the space bar.
I don't have my hands up here, so
it just could have been an accident.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Anyways, as I was saying, Heidi winds up going back to her bake shop. She's looking in ways to research and kind of get the money together to give to the stranger. And as she's in there, she gets approached by a man who says he's from, I believe, like the CSI or some sort of thing. He tries to make it like he's some sort of FBI thing,
Yeah.
researching Heidi's daughter for the sugar baby site, but it's actually just a regular cop who is researching the stranger itself and is trying to figure out who the stranger is. And he winds up shooting Heidi and killing her. And
Yeah.
it turns into this other crazy story because he's kind of a corrupt cop. But then you learn he's doing this because his young daughter is sick, and then it ties into another fucking crazy story where like the mom is making the daughter sick with some Munchausen syndrome shit. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
There's so many things that happen.
There's a bunch of stuff, and then there's a whole nother story on top of it because the main character, he is a lawyer, and he's the lawyer for a ex-police officer who's in a house that's about to get knocked down.
Forgot about this.
Yeah, and so he helps him investigate the stranger and the missing wife, but then you find out a hidden story about him, and there's a lot of different things, and everything has to connect in different ways, but that's the whole point of the stranger, is the stranger basically connects everybody's secrets together and exposes everybody and creates chaos.
She makes it seem like she's doing it to help people have better lives.
Yeah.
Like at one point she tells a girl that a girl's at her bachelorette party for her wedding. She's about to get married to a man, and she comes to her with the file saying, "Oh, here's the secret that she's bringing up to her." The woman who's getting married was in a previous relationship where a video of her, I believe, or photos of her being intimate with her partner went onto the internet, and so her naked body having sex with this man on the internet, she was super upset about it. The evidence shows that her fiance is the one who posted it, of her having sex with her ex-boyfriend because he wanted to get with her. So, but the girl says fuck you and like still marries the dude and isn't upset about it.
Yeah.
Like she just takes the money, or gives her the money rather, and then does her own thing. So I think the character that's the stranger, what's her name? Her real name? Does it say it?
The stranger's name?
Yeah.
Hannah John Kamen? Common?
I feel like that's...
John Kamen.
Is that
Hannah
the
John
actress
Kamen.
name?
Yeah.
What's her name in the show?
The stranger.
That's it? She has a name. Chris.
They call
Chris.
her just the stranger.
No, her name's Chris.
I know, but on the task
Chrissy.
list.
I just want to know. So Chrissy's character basically thinks like she's like the vigilante of the secret world and like bringing these things to life, but she's creating fucking chaos and it's getting bad.
Yeah, I mean, she's picky and choosy on how she handles it, so it's obviously not like she has values.
But the reason why she isn't blackmailing certain people is because you learn that she has relations to them. The guy you were talking about too, I totally forgot about the guy in the house who was like a detective and who was helping him in the beginning. He like murdered his wife, and I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was the story part I was talking about.
I know, but like I just repressed that because so much other shit went on in the show that
There's a lot, yeah.
And I loved his character. I thought he was so good, and then when I saw the body, I was like, oh my god. I mean, you kind of expected it, but like, it was nuts.
Yeah, and then it throws off the main character because the main character thinks like that could be like maybe his wife or something, you know what I mean? So that's a pretty epic moment at that point. And his kind of throws things off for a second, you know?
Yeah, his dad's also like a big time lawyer guy who's played by Anthony Stewart Head, and like he's a total douchebag that just like sleeps around with all these different women and stuff. And I think he's a really good character.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, they have some really good like double team investigating moments that are really nice.
He plays a good like rich prick dude. Like he's awesome, going in there being like, nah, I just do what I want.
I mean,
in your face.
I feel like it's as realistic as can be, like the husband going to those extreme lengths and consistently doing stuff. Like I feel like that's 100% how people would be if your wife just went missing one day and like didn't really say anything about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people he's talking to about this are like, oh, she's probably just upset because of what happened and she needs some time. And he's like, no, the way she wrote these texts, the way that she did this, she wouldn't just leave the kids like this.
He's a good investigator.
Yeah, so like he really investigates it, and I just love that it was not what we expected with the trailer. Like, the trailer definitely shows you what's gonna happen.
Nah, but it goes a little bit more intense. Like, we locked in pretty quick, and we cleared it in, like, 2 days?
There's technically, like, 2 or 3 murder mysteries.
Yeah, it's good.
Throughout it.
8 episodes.
Yeah. So, definitely an interesting watch. I mentioned kind of earlier the stranger girl has a partner with her, too, who's like, very tech-savvy.
She's whatever.
She's whatever, but I'm just saying, like, she's not working alone, so you have that relationship of her being too stressed out that the stranger Chrissy is doing these certain things. I would give it like a solid 7.5, maybe an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would definitely. I would say a good 8.
Yeah, I would definitely say
it's a limited series, so like I don't got to worry about it being disappointing next.
No, I mean
the
season. Ending was kind of like, I mean, it gets fucking crazy when you figure out where Caroline or whatever her name went. That shit's nuts.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about that, but...
Yeah, when you do find out where his wife went and the end twist,
yeah,
that's a really good part.
Yeah, we should just let it be.
yeah, definitely watch that part because we can spoil a lot, but there's still a lot more to find out.
Well, that's like when I was just talking about stuff earlier, and I was like, I forgot the stuff even happened with the one detective. There's just so much that happens, and I think it's...
If you're into that kind of puzzle and that complexity and watching all the little connections and getting to find it, like playing Clue with it.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah, then you'll enjoy it for sure.
Well, I love that it turned into a murder mystery because I didn't expect that going into it. And we love murder mysteries. It's up our alley. To bridge off of that, though, we should talk about The Lodge because the dad from that is also the dad in this one. Yeah,
so that's funny. So Mr. Richard Armitage is his name. And he plays a guy named Richard in this movie.
I love when
which
they
is
do
funny.
that.
Yeah,
I love when they do that with actors. That's my favorite. What about Elon Musk's kid? If she becomes an actress, do you think they're gonna go with her name in movies?
Yeah, and they'll cast her for every droid in Star Wars. Yeah, so that's how that'll go.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
All right,
I was just thinking about
The
that.
Lodge is a horror thriller. It's a movie. Came out February 7th. The last one that we just watched just came out at the end of January. What was it, January 30th? And then this came out February 7th, and it's got the same dude. So my man's crushing it right now. But, okay, so the summary for this movie is, during a family retreat to a remote winter cabin over the holidays, the father is forced to abruptly depart for work, leaving his 2 children in the care of his new girlfriend, Grace. Isolated and alone, a blizzard traps them inside the lodge as terrifying events summon specters from Grace's dark past.
I want to say a couple things before we actually get started to this review. I watched the trailer for this like over a year ago, and immediately I was like, Joe, we have to watch this movie. It's totally up my alley.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
I love the premise. The one kid from Stranger Things is in it, so I love that all these kids...
What's his name?
I cannot remember his name.
Georgie's brother, right?
Mm-hmm. I love that he's doing, or I love that all these kids are doing different movies and shows, and it makes me want to watch them, kind of like grow up through Hollywood or whatever. But I love that it's by the people who made Goodbye Mommy. Goodnight Mommy.
Is it from them?
Yeah.
That movie,
I like that movie a lot, and I thought it was really interesting, and you could tell about that they made that because it's the same kind of style of it. I will say that this movie is marketed as like a horror film, and it's more of like a psychological thriller, I would say. It's definitely got horror aspects to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's very much like, what is it? What is the cult? The Gates 7 something...
Oh, it's like the Heaven's Gate thing, yeah.
Yeah, it very much feels like the Heaven's Gate stuff, and you see this all in the trailer. I want to say that this shit is fucking dark. It's not like...
Yeah.
I'm
it's not like fast moving or anything crazy, but it's pretty good.
There's like an immediate suicide, which I think is like fine.
Yeah, that they kind of throw right in your face. You're like, oh. Yeah,
so we'll get into like the whole thing, but it's just a very, very dark thing overall. Like, I don't think we expected it. I think we expected it to be more like paranormal or horror based, and then it got fucking crazy and we were looking at it. So I don't think there's really any way to not talk about this in a spoiler free way, other than it's definitely worth watching. If you don't feel like you're in a stable mindset, then maybe wait a little fucking bit, because it could definitely mess with you. But it's a really interesting, complex film, I feel like, at points. And it really messes with your mind at times.
Yeah, especially, like, It's cold in some areas right now still, and if you're trapped in home during this situation, you're gonna watch this. Might get you a little antsy.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
It's definitely really good. So let's talk about it in its entirety.
Okay.
I know it's not possible, but it feels very like Hereditary in a sense, where it's got like this like family aspect. They bring in the dollhouse. These films were filmed at the same time, so there's no way that these could be the same. But
yeah, they have a couple cool shots that they do throughout the film where they show this like big dollhouse basically that the kid plays
it's foreshadowing.
with, and it's all just showing what's gonna happen. Basically.
But at first, it looks like it's just this creepy dollhouse, and you're like, okay, is this foreshadowing, or is it just trying to make you uncomfortable because you're going to a lodge, or like whatever it is? It starts off with Alicia Silverstone, right? That's the mom.
Yes.
She, you can tell she's very, like, upset and unstable, like, immediately. And as soon as you start, I'm like, she's gonna kill herself to you. And you're like, I don't know if you even heard me say that. But she goes to her ex-husband's house because they're splitting up. And he tells her he wants to finalize the divorce. He's gonna get married to Grace. And she says, okay, whatever, peace out. She dips on him. She goes home, drinks some wine. She sits down. And then she just fucking shoots herself in the face.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And it was like, I kept saying she's gonna kill herself, but like I was kind of messing around. Like I didn't think she would do it right then and there. I also didn't think she was just gonna have a gun and it would be so violent.
Yeah. Well, they do that especially because I guess they have to show some extra weight on the fact on why she's so upset about this Grace lady.
Yeah.
You know, and when you find out that Grace was the only survivor of a suicide cult, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh, and it was this guy's job. I guess he does some kind of work.
Like news reporting.
Some kind of thing where
he wrote a book.
Okay, because some way or another, he worked with and involved himself with this girl somehow through his job. And then started dating her.
The kid says Dad wrote about her in his book. So I think he does some sort of newspaper journaling as well as books.
Yeah. They don't really go into his job too much.
I will say his house is fucking cool as hell. I love that. It's so nice. And I kind of love that it doesn't have backstory with these characters as much. But I kind of wish we had a little bit more of that. Like, it brings you right into the movie right away. It's like, here's the kid's family, suicide lodge. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I think they did that on purpose because they add with that tension after the suicide and the kind of discussion and slow branching into finally getting to the lodge because they do not introduce Grace at all, really.
They don't show her at all.
That's the point, is to show the tension with the children, to get you kind of curious and to make you be like, well what the hell's the deal with this Grace lady? Like, is she like a total catty bitch? Or
so
like, what's her problem?
Before they even show that she's in the cult in the movie, it's the kids being upset because they think she's the reason why the mom killed herself, because he told his ex-wife that he was going to marry her in a few months, and then she killed herself immediately, and you find out like everything later on. But you do see Grace's shadow like a few times earlier in the movie, but they don't reveal her face until they're actually going to the lodge, which I liked a lot. One thing I would say is to really pay attention during these scenes. I would like to watch it again because there's a few things I feel like I caught early on, but I didn't really realize we're going to be put into play later. Especially like we talk about the dollhouse with foreshadowing and everything else. There's parts where like you see he's packing different types of stuff. He packs like a rope. I saw him pack candles and certain things. I didn't catch everything, but I wanted to see what else he was bringing. And I was like, I feel like it's a little odd that he's packing some of these things. Whatever, they wind up going to the lodge, right? And they finally meet. And actually right before they go is when they do the research and they find the articles and stuff about her. They find these weird tapes where basically they have duct tape on their mouth that said sinners, right? Or sin. And she does basically like the cult we were talking about earlier, where they have their shoes on the bed and everybody, I'm assuming they drink something, right? Is that what they did?
I guess, something like that.
Yeah, and then they're all covered with their sheets and she's videotaping. And then it ends with her videotaping and they go to lunch. So I don't know how young these kids are. They're fairly young. I would say the kid's in middle school, and then his younger sister has to be younger. No?
Nah, the kid's got to be in high school.
I don't think he looks that old.
The other kid's maybe in like middle school or something.
I feel like he looks super young.
I always add extra years just in case because I always feel like everyone's a little toddler.
I
And
get
so,
it.
and then I'm always wrong, so I'm just
I
adding
feel
a
like
few
he has
years.
to be like an early teenager, like not.
Yeah, he's got to be in high school, right?
I don't know. He looks super young to me. I wish we knew, but they go to lodge. You want to talk about when they go to lodge and the beginnings of that?
Yeah, I mean, they're in the lodge. Everything's kind of okay, hunky-dory for the most part. They don't really mess with Grace, and they get kind of shitty with her whenever she does anything in relation to anything that was the mom's property.
But also to note, they didn't get along with her at all yet. They haven't really spent time with her.
No.
And the dad said, well, you need to because I'm getting married to her in a couple months.
And the place that we used to go with Mom every winter for Christmas, you're going to meet her there, and you're going to spend time with her there, stuck with her.
And I'm going to leave you 6 hours away from me.
Yeah, so, like, upon reflection on that, you're like, dude, really? Like, this guy is, like, being an ass.
And also, not to drift away from this, but, like, he obviously has some sort of thing if he's writing about these cult leaders and the psychology behind it. So wouldn't you think that maybe she still has past trauma? Wouldn't you think that maybe it's not the best for your kids to put them in this situation, not only with her, but the trauma they're doing right now because their mom killed them, like herself?
Yeah, and then you're going to be like, oh, well, we can still go there, but I have to leave for work for a few days. So then you leave her there with them.
Yeah.
Right. So then on top of it, have you thought, like, oh, if there's an emergency and they can't get a hold of me, I can count on Grace.
While I'm 6 hours away.
What? To, like, pray the emergency away? Like, what is she going to do?
Yeah.
Like, she's all traumatized and whacked out. So that's the funny part about it. Like, when you watch it, you don't think about it too much, but then, like, if you really take a second to think back and be like, yo, like, what's up with Richard just doing all this shit to his kids like that?
Once he said it was 6 hours away, I was like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, I would never.
Nah.
Never. Especially, like any, let's say we just started dating and I had kids. I wouldn't just do that because we just started dating.
Yeah.
Now you're going to put everything else with the psychological effect or, like, that her, you know, and I don't want to be like, oh, she's mentally ill. But, like, she is mentally ill to some degree. He doesn't know how ill because at one point we see that she's hiding her medication from him. But you have to some degree know that she's fucked up from what happened to her.
Yeah, you would think. You know, it almost makes you think like maybe he's involved in some kind of thing, but no, like it's just
he's just
his
stupid.
Own ignorance.
He's selfish
basically.
because he just wants to be with this woman, doesn't care about anything else.
100%.
So they go to the lodge. It's Christmas time. I think they spend like a night or so together. Then he goes back to work. And so Grace is left with the kids. She wants to put up Christmas decorations. She wants to do things like that.
They don't want to mess with her.
There's a part before that where you see in the trailer that they're trying to ice skate outside, and she's wearing the mom's hat, and they freak out because she's wearing the mom's hat.
Yeah.
And it's a whole thing. So she's very uncomfortable in this situation. I don't blame her because if you know two kids hate you and that their mom died, but you love this man, you want to make it work, it's a very awkward situation. So she really tries to do everything possible to get these kids to like her. You see her put little Christmas presents that she got them like into a drawer at one point. She tries to talk to them about things like her dog and really make them feel included and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. And then there's a couple things in the house. There's a lot of religious stuff in the house, and that constantly freaks out Grace the whole time.
It's super eerie. It's like...
And he doesn't think about it. He's like, nah, man, like, if you want Grace, go do a Hail Mary over there. No big deal.
Well, they're like hooking up, and she keeps looking at... Or, no, they're not hooking up at this point. They're hanging out on the bed, and she's looking at the cross real weird, and he's like, does that make you uncomfortable? And she's like, no, you can leave it. You could tell she doesn't want to say anything about it. But, like, also in the house, there's all these pictures of him and his wife, and, like, all this shit that would just make anybody feel uncomfortable going in it.
Yeah. Very, very weird.
And
also, you wouldn't do that.
Like, if you knew that somebody... That's like if you were traumatized because you got mauled by a bear, and then I had, like, bear statues and figures everywhere, and it brought you, like, back to PTSD, and I was like, oh, does this bother you? Like, obviously it's gonna fucking bother you.
Yeah.
So it's just... I don't know. He's not the brightest, this guy. It goes back into the situation where she's just really trying to get these kids to like her. It seems like the younger daughter is... I don't know her name, if you could pull that up for me.
The younger daughter's name?
Yeah. The two kids, what are their names?
I don't know what the younger daughter's name is. It's Grace and something.
No, Grace is the lady. I want to know the kids' names.
Oh, yeah. Aiden and the girl. I don't remember the girl's name.
How do you not know her name? It's your job to get all the stuff.
Hey, they didn't put her as an important cast member on the front line of this. They put 5 members on the cast. Which is
Mia.
weird that they do that. Mia?
Yeah, so Mia starts warming up to Grace a little bit, it seems like. Aiden's still really shut off, just doing his own thing. I think she starts having nightmares at night, and she's doing like a sleepwalk kind of thing. She takes her medication, she kind of panics with it a little bit, and it's like over the series of a few days. It seems like they're going to be left alone for 3 to 4 days before the dad comes back, is what I think it was. I don't know what else happened in between then. They spent some time outside. They spent some time with the dog. It was just like a general thing.
Yeah, basic stuff. But the power goes out.
Yeah.
You know, and then they can't contact anybody, and then things start getting weird.
So the power goes out, or it might not be when the power goes out. He brings up a gas heater into the living room because it's still very cold. I think the power's still on this time. They're watching a movie, and he gives Grace like a hot cocoa cup. He's finally seems like he's warming up to her, and she's like pretty stoked about it, but she's worried about the gas heater. And he's like, "No, it's safe. If it's inside." Blah blah blah. The next day, she wakes up. I think she has that feverish dream situation happening again, and everything's out. The power's out, like he said, and the kid makes a comment saying, Aiden says, I had a dream that the gas generator made it so that they couldn't breathe and they died or whatever.
And they suffocated.
Yeah, and he didn't want to freak out his sister Mia, so he said something to her. But you wind up seeing that everything's missing in the house.
Yeah, and like weird shit starts happening, and then like the clock's constantly set to a certain date.
Her medication's gone.
Yeah, her medication goes missing.
All the food, all
the dog goes missing.
Yeah, everything is missing. And she starts going, okay, where's my fucking pills, kids? Like, why are you doing this? Like, where is everything? And they're like, Grace, we didn't do this. Like, why are you saying that we did this? And they're kind of going back and forth, and then she starts panicking because her pills are gone, rightfully so, because she obviously needs them. And it just keeps going in a circle of every day. She's panicking because the stuff's not there. The kids are kind of just like, we don't know what happened. It must be you. And they do a good job with this film making you think it could be like a multitude of stuff. Like, I thought it was going to be, at first I was like, all right, maybe they're fucking with her. And then it got like pretty serious, and I was like, what if there's something paranormal or weird, or especially because it's all this religious stuff.
They make it seem like it's her doing it, and then every time she goes to sleep, basically, she starts sleepwalking and becomes a maniac.
Yeah, there's parts where she has, first off, just bring it back a little bit. Before the husband leaves, he shows her his gun in the house. He's like, oh, this is my ex-wife's, like, family heirloom. It's a gun. Also, like, I know that you might not be mentally stable and you've never been around my kids before, but here's a gun for you. Here's the passcode so you can have this.
Yeah.
So she's, like, walking around, like, half sleepwalking with a gun.
Yeah, a lot of the things, like, in a sense, that's the biggest problem of the movie, is everything he does is, like, a setup to the whole thing happening, and you're like, what? Why would you do that? So, yeah, the gun thing is a major thing. You're like, dude, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Well, especially because he was talking to her like, oh, do you know how to use the gun? And then she's like, pop, 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 and just like perfect shots.
At that point I would be like, nah, the crazy broad doesn't get
I'd be like, I'm taking the gun with me, or I'm taking you with me, and you're not going to be with my kids.
Yeah. Or like if he had one of the older kid trusted enough, trained with it to be like, hey, like, you know, if there's an emergency, you got to protect the kid.
But at the same time, it's not her fault that she has mental things, because she's been through all the shit. And she's taking her medication, and she's taking the steps to do that, and she's doing everything, but her medication goes missing, so what is she supposed to do?
But at the same time, Richard and Grace, both adults.
Yeah.
Both making dumb choices. She shouldn't have went on the trip. He shouldn't have done all that dumb shit to set up the trip.
I don't think it was bad for her to go on the trip. I think it was what she felt like she had to do, because this is the man she wants to be with, and she knows the kids don't like her.
I wouldn't have gone to the family lodge for Christmas and be alone with them.
But it's not like he was like, come to my secret family lodge with my wife. Like, it didn't show him saying that. It seemed like, she knew this is what they did as a family, but she didn't know all the specific things to her would be there. It's not like, I used to go to like a log cabin when I was a kid for a family member, but it's not like all their pictures were always there. It was just one they went to. So like, she could just not known it was so specific to that. Also, fuck that guy. He bought a dog bed for the dog to sleep downstairs. That pissed me off right away. Awful. I'm just getting into the nitty gritty of this. I'm very, like, dissecting of this movie because I think it's so interesting. Um, Clock keeps changing back to the same date. They eventually go into a conversation where they think that they might have died and been in purgatory. She's like,
Yeah.
we didn't die. There's no way we died. Um, I don't remember the order of events. It might be a little foggy. Do you remember what happens? Because it talks a little bit about the death and purgatory thing.
Well, we basically talked about all the things that happened that lead up to certain major events, like
Yeah.
where the kid basically is like, no, we're in purgatory, you have to repent. There's a part where she freaks out and she decides she's going to go get help and runs off by herself, but it's a snowstorm and she walks herself in a circle, basically.
She walks to like a building and like sees someone inside, but it looks like the dad, and she's like banging on the door. She's also hearing the thing about repenting and her father's voice consistently through the house.
Yeah, and clearly you can tell the whole time that as it goes on that they're just managing to make her go a little crazy.
Well, we didn't even talk about, we're not talking about that yet. We're still talking about the fact that it seems like she could just be crazy. There's a part where the daughter's talking on the phone, Mia, and Grace runs in the room and snatches the phone out of her hand, and she's like, I was just pretending, like all of our phones are dead, I'm not talking to anybody. But you learn later on that that's not the truth. So yes, we're talking about purgatory now, but we haven't even talked about the kids actually being the ones to do this.
No, but she still was freaking out thinking it was them, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
that's why she freaks out and she's like, I'm just gonna go get help.
Yeah.
Like, she's starting to get a little bugged out and suspicious.
They start talking about it more. I believe she finds on her way back, either looking for the dog or looking for that building, she finds a photo frame outside and
in the snow.
And it has a picture of all of them in there, and it says, or at least the kids, and it says in memory of or something like that. And Aiden is like, what does this mean, Grace? Why is this outside? And is like freaking out on her as if one, she's going to kill them, or two, they're dead, is kind of what he's implying at that time. There's also it's like an obituary, I guess it would be, right? It's like all three of their faces.
Yeah, they did like a newspaper article, basically.
Yeah, and talks about, we paused it, and it basically said something about the gas.
Yeah, and that they suffocated, and that they had a ceremony for them on the 5th of January, and something like that.
And that's why the January date keeps coming up. And so it's this whole big thing that just makes you think, well, are they in purgatory? Is that what's really happening? And there's a part where Aiden is like screaming at her and is like, we are in purgatory. You have to accept that we're dead. We're dead.
Yeah.
And he goes to the attic and hangs himself. And he's like, you could see that I'm clearly dead because I'm not dying. Like, we're in purgatory. And she like fucking loses her mind at that point.
Yeah, that's a pretty gnarly part at that point.
I think then... Is that when she finds her dog, like, completely frozen outside?
Yeah, at some point after that, yeah, she panics and then goes and gets the dog. But the problem is once they find the dog, it throws off things.
Yeah. So you see them kind of at the point where she's like tipping over, losing her mind. They start whispering stuff, and you're like, okay, it's definitely these little fucking shits. And I believe it's, he starts saying we have to repent for our sins before he hangs himself. And he keeps saying things that her father was saying. And the same kind of chants that he was saying. And so she's freaking out because it's just bringing back this, like, repressed memory of something she doesn't want to talk about and, like, thinking you're actually dead. It's a whole thing. And they're so creatively fucked up. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to talk about this because it just makes me so mad.
Yeah, it was just pretty, like, shitty, and when you could tell at that point that, like, they're starting to get exposed because it's all set up, then you start to see, like, oh, man, that kid, man, he's been playing it off pretty good the whole time, but you could tell at that point that he, like, hates her so much that he's, like,
he's not
really driving for this to work, and it's not working, and he is freaking out.
Well, the sister, Mia, starts crying once we talked about the dog for a second. The dog gets found, and she starts saying it's her fault because she left the door open and the dog froze. It wasn't part of their plan to kill the dog. But at that point, Grace is, like, totally gone at this point. She's just not okay. I don't know if before or after she was on the ground in the snow with her knees, just kind of, what would you say? She's like not walking. She's kneeling and just going throughout the snow, to kind of hurt herself.
No, that might have been part of it, but at one point she's punishing herself because she totally snaps, and she's like burnt. She's kneeling down on burnt logs
Yeah,
from the
but
fire.
she did it with her knees in the snow first. She was in the snow doing that for a bit, and then they were looking out the window, and I think that's when she found the dog around the same time. And then
Maybe.
she came in and she did it on the coals as well, and it was like a whole big thing. They started freaking out because she was like clearly fucking unstable. And this had to be maybe a day or two before the dad was supposed to come back at this point in real time.
Yeah, so once it got to that point, they start to get a little nervous because it doesn't work out quite like they think it would, like a prank.
Yeah. Well, first off, if you're old enough to do a quote unquote prank like this, you're old enough to know that you shouldn't take people's fucking medication. Like, if they would have left her medication and they kept fucking with her, she could have probably had a similar outcome, but not to this degree. And then there's even a point where you see there's a little boombox speaker, one of those like portable speakers, that's playing the dad's voice consistently talking. So while she's thinking she's hearing it in her head, it's because it's literally playing throughout the house.
Yeah,
like
there's a lot of good setups in it.
He was on the internet for 10 minutes before they left the night before and was able to conjure up a plan, make graphics of all three of them dead in an obituary. He was able to make the photo frame. He did all these specific things to fuck with this lady. The kid is so... You can't really blame Mia because she's so young. And you almost don't want to blame him at some points because you're like, yo, he's a kid. Like, he's so hurt by something that he's doing something so drastic. But how the fuck do you know to do something like this?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean...
When she starts losing her mind, they keep saying it's a prank, Grace. We're just kidding. It's a prank. She's totally just gone at this point.
Yeah.
They go into the basement. They reveal, like, all the stuff that they hid. All of her medication, clothing, the food. They try to turn on the generator. It won't start. They're trying to get things back together. And they see that she's really unhinged after she burns her knees and does all this stuff. So they sleep in the attic. And at one point... Was there anything else that happens before she goes downstairs?
No, basically all the stuff that we talked about, like when she finally starts snapping and they freak out, then they go up to the attic, they try to get everything working, but once they can't get any contact, the phones are actually dead and stuff, they just panic and they go right to the attic.
Well, because at that point she was calling the dad every day. She goes, I don't have any battery on my phone, I've been calling dad every day. And you're like, shit, like they've really been just doing this every day to fuck with this lady. At this point, it's where and I think the movie tries to put it as Grace is the villain throughout the beginning. It's very ominous before you see her. It's very
they try to make it like she's the problem.
But realistically, what did she do wrong?
Well, I mean,
point,
like she kind of gets put in a bad situation, and she's like someone who is a traumatized person.
She's in love with a dude. Okay, I don't know what happened before that. I don't know if he cheated on his wife with her. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. She's just in love with the dude. He has 2 kids that she really wants to make, feel special. She's obviously in a situation because the wife killed herself, and she might even be thinking it's her fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then she goes, okay, I'm going to make this work for him. We're going to go to this lodge. And then she has to keep these kids safe during this time. And she can't do that.
Yeah, and obviously things start to really fuck with her. So that all comes to a head on a major level.
Yeah.
She's all whacked out. She's got the gun at this point. She goes and gets the gun, and she's all going after them, basically. And it seems like she's in her, ritual sacrifice mode.
So eerie, so uncomfortable. Yeah. She takes the younger daughter's doll, I guess it's supposed to resemble the mom, and she basically tries to set it on fire as a way to, like, free the girl because she needs to
cleanse her.
Yeah, to cleanse herself. She gets into a state where she's talking very cultish, very much like the father on the tapes that you hear. I personally wish we could have heard more from the cult.
Yeah, I would have liked to have dug more into the cult.
Would have loved to hear more about that, but they do everything the way they do it on purpose. Just super, super uncomfortable. The dad winds up going, I haven't heard from anybody, so I'm going to finally go drive 6 hours away. You didn't talk to your girlfriend the whole time you were gone. You only talked to your one kid.
Yeah, I think that's a little weird too.
Right? Like, you didn't call her at all. You weren't like, hey, why can't I talk to Grace?
Yeah.
Why is Grace's phone off?
Well, that's the thing, and I've been waiting to get to this point. It's like I have a lot of complaints about the movie.
All
in
right,
that
so
sense.
let's finish off the story. Dad goes to the thing, to the house, sees that Grace is unstable with the gun. He's trying to get her to come down.
Yeah.
And she's like, "We're in purgatory. We died. Like, this is my fault. We need to repent for our sins." Blah blah blah. Gets very cultish. He tries to be like, "Grace, no, we're alive." She takes the gun, goes to shoot herself in the head. Nothing happens because there's an empty bullet at that point in the chamber. And then she does it to him, shoots him in the head. He's fucking dead.
Yeah.
So now these kids are freaking out.
Boom.
Run outside to the car. He's trying to drive the car to dip out. Crashes. Can't get out. They get brought back inside. You see them sitting at a dinner table with her. They're praying. They're singing. And then the dad is just sitting in the fucking chair there with them. She gets the duct tape, puts it all on everybody. And then the movie ends right there.
And basically, yeah, like it's like she's reignited, cult's back, except like she's like the new cult leader, basically.
Let's just give a numbers thing real quick, and then we'll talk about our
as far
pros
as a
and cons.
rating,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Oh, I loved it. I would give it like a 9. A 9 out of 10.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I don't think it has the consistent replay value as like other movies will. Like, for example, Goodnight Mommy, Hereditary, Midsommar. I haven't watched that yet, but those movies are so fucked up that you can only watch them so often. I don't think that this should be classified as a horror movie as much as it was marketed to be so. It's obviously dark and horror-ish because it's fucked up, but I really thought it was going to be more about cults or maybe some kind of paranormal thing, and it was not that at all, which is what I really liked. I thought that the twist of the movie was really good. I did think right away in the beginning that it was the kids, and I mentioned that to you, but as things were going on, it made me kind of question myself and if I was thinking correctly or if it was actually something else. I honestly thought she would snap out of it at some point, but she's completely gone. So I personally really, really liked it, but I'd like to hear why you gave it a 6 and maybe your pros and cons, and go back and forth.
Okay, so they did their best, I feel like, to try to make the aspect of that fear of being trapped with somebody in modern day that you have in older movies. But obviously there was some issues because like you watch this and yes, I like the whole way like it plays out when they're in the lodge. I like the way things start escalating. I like the kind of things that start fucking with your head a little bit about everything. And I like the twist at the end. I like the whole deal. But, like we were saying, I hate the introduction. I think it's really vague. I don't like that everything contradicts itself. That, like, no average person, like anybody we know, would ever make a move like that and do something like that.
I agree, but I also think it has to be vague in order for a film like this to work.
That's why I'm saying to make that feel of an old movie, because once you're there and they have phones and we go into the, like, what you were saying, that they don't talk, like, he doesn't talk to his girlfriend, but he talks to the kid. Really? And he technically only talks to the one kid, really, and not the other kid. Mm-hmm. Not her, not nothing. No, like, that's all a bunch of crap. And the fact that she also, like, doesn't have some kind of like backup, like didn't maybe like have her phone off or like just let it die, because you don't see her playing with the phone the whole time or nothing, you know, like you would think. I guess she didn't have a phone.
She uses it a couple times.
Yeah, and it just died.
Nobody has one of those portable chargers.
Yeah, nobody has a portable charger type deal. Yeah. Like there's a lot of things that's weird about it in a sense, like that stuff kind of bothers me, because there's so many like holes like that. Like obviously nobody's gonna do that. He would have obviously talked to her. Like he would have never brought her out there in that circumstance. He would have hid stuff in the fucking house, you know?
Yeah.
Like all that different stuff, and he would have never gave her the gun and took her for shooting lessons beforehand and all that. But aside from that, I mean, like when everything's playing out, it's really cool. I really enjoy that part. When you sit there and you lay out the whole way they introduce everything, the whole way the conflict happens, and how the conflict remains happening at points, you're like, it pisses me off. I get a little mad about it.
I mean, yeah, but I think it's like also supposed to make you mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's right fucking there in front of your face, dude. How could you not notice it? And I really want to know more about how he interviewed her and how it became a relationship. Like, I'm so intrigued into that story. We don't get that. I definitely would have loved to see that, but I think they don't humanize her character really at all in this movie. They just make it to be like she's just this lady with this dark past, and we see her as a villain because the wife is dead, and then she becomes the villain of the story. But realistically, the villain of the story is fucking Aiden, and honestly, probably the dad at this point because he's just a fucking idiot. Like, the stupidest man.
Yeah.
I can't. A sure way to get your kids to love the girl you're dating is forcing them to be stuck in a cabin with them for the weekend and telling them that you're going to marry her whether they like it or not. That's great. Look what happens.
Super weird.
It's obviously implied by the ending that she kills the kids.
Maybe.
But I don't know if she kills herself, because at one point when she's filming the original video that we see, I think she still has tape on her mouth. So I don't know if she kills them and then continues on. I don't know what happens. Doesn't seem like there's anybody in the area because the town is like a mile out from anything else, or miles rather.
Or like why the kids didn't just try to grab the gun. You know, she gets up, walks away from the gun.
And they focus on the gun for a minute.
That agitated me. I'm like, kid, you could have went for it.
You try to drive the car, you can't grab the gun. I don't blame Mia really, because she's a little child.
Yeah. I you know, she doesn't really, you don't feel too much weight about her in the situation because they don't do anything to make her feel like she's in any kind of serious harm at any moment until the very end. And it's not like super dangerous until the very, very end for her, it seems like.
It's so weird to me because the plan is so adult.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if they just hit her medication and didn't think anything of it, or they were like, oh, I'm just going to hide everything, and they didn't think about the effects of hiding her medication, or if they like actually knew that to some degree, because once it started getting crazy, he freaked out and was like, it's a joke, but like, you obviously have to some degree know that you're fucking with this lady so much. You made literal pieces of paper of your obituary. Like, you are that fucked up. Yeah. I don't know, that's why I like it so much. I think it's so interesting. At the end of it, I was like, this is really fucking dark and I'm uncomfortable, but I feel like I like this more than I liked Hereditary or other films that are being compared to it, at least, or in that sort of genre of like a really twisted psychological horror film. I think it's rather good.
Yeah, I thought it was alright.
Yeah. We talked about it for a while, so obviously I'm pretty into it.
Yeah, so you're very into it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool stuff if you're into it to get into the cult stuff.
Yeah.
Or to get into the kind of like cool twist almost. For I guess in a sense it makes it kind of a Home Alone feel at points, because it's kind of like he's setting up all this stuff, this little kid mastermind kind of shithead.
I would love to hear what other people have to say about it, because it's definitely not like a very lighthearted film in any way. I also want to say, we were talking about the foreshadowing of the dollhouse earlier.
Yeah.
I thought when I was first seeing it that it was just like a paranormal. I said that a few times, but it felt like it was maybe just like a foreshadowing in a paranormal sense, like of them fucking with the dollhouse and stuff. Yeah. I didn't think it was the kids planning out how they were gonna pretend this murder happened. You can clearly see that they're staging each thing, which I thought was really cool, and I'd like to watch this film again when I'm not manic and like depressive. I would love to watch it again and kind of examine those little tools and be like, hey, that's where that is and this is what's happening, because I mentioned his bag being packed with specific things, and I wonder if there's other things we might have missed in the beginning.
Maybe.
Yeah. Sorry, we talked about this for a while.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a lot to get into on that one, and there's a kind of, you know, same with the one before that, though. I mean, both of the things that we watched recently have been a little bit more like there's kind of shit kind of all over the place. I
feel like we also didn't talk about, like, even though this is very spoiler heavy, we didn't talk about a lot of stuff that happened in both. So you could watch it and
that is true,
and still see a lot of.
They both had enough random little twists and random little things that were kind of keeping you puzzly and questioning what's going on with the story, or who's the main, I guess, villain or whatever of the story.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. It's definitely something worth watching if you're into that kind of stuff.
For sure.
All right, so let's get out of that and get into some comic stuff.
Comics.
One thing that everybody, I guess, if you're into comics, is noticing is that comics are kind of not on the up and up lately. You know what I mean? We have some news, a lot of news lately. As of like May 8th, we got some news that Marvel was shutting down their digital comics store. May 6th that Marvel was making 7 existing titles, but they were only really launching maybe one new digital series. And that new digital series was going to be a 2020 Ironheart. So, I mean, like, you could just scrap that. And then, like, there's other news. Let's see. One thing of news that I do kind of like is in the comic book world, because right now, with, I believe the problem was with comic distribution and the main distributor, everybody works through the main distributor, which was Diamond Comics, right? Okay, yeah, so we see on the 24th of March, we see that there was Diamond Comic distributors, they halted their shipments of comics in response. But that's everybody's shipments, so all the stores really got bottlenecked on that, not to mention they weren't open during the quarantine in a lot of areas. So it's a major constriction of the comic book market right now. The one thing I was going to say that is a plus side for the comic book market that we're seeing is that there is an update that a company called Allegiance is putting comics at Walmarts. And I know everybody who's gone and bought comics at Walmart, they're garbage. It's always like the big books and like random weird throwaway ones. Like there's never, you can never go there and get like your whole, story arc accomplished by going to Walmart, that whole deal. But this company Allegiance is basically putting up a stand at most Walmarts or every Walmart, and it's basically their series only. And it's like 4 or 5 original comics, and every month or whatever they're going to update, or every couple weeks, and they'll have new comics in there. But it's not totally in the Marvel DC universe. It's not necessarily just like superheroes in tights type deal. It's going to be different stories, all different types of things. Just to hopefully get people introduced into comic books and get kids into reading that kind of stuff.
That's cool.
I think they're going to put it probably in the toy aisle, I would think, somewhere near that little fun zone there.
They have like a comic and book section that's kind of near. It depends on what.
Section's no good.
Yeah, that's usually where.
I'm going to look.
The gift section is kind of in Walmart. But I'm looking at Image's site right now, and it seems like new releases are starting up again on May 20th. I'm looking at previous weeks, and there's been nothing like on there for independent publishers. So
yeah, DC is trying to resume sale of some new comic books, from what we're seeing. A little bit more is coming from DC. I think they're pushing a little bit more sales. One thing that's going on also is that Image Comics, they're trying to promote, comic book shops to buy comics. Although it's hard for them right now in a situation where they're trying to work out deals for being able to sell back their comics, you know what I mean, and for ones that don't get sold and things like that, just to help out the community along the lines of they're all doing a bunch of different things.
Oh, so you mean my favorite comic publisher is doing the best, correct. Thank you, Image.
Yeah, and then, they all basically, at this point, I guess it got to such a constraint that they're going against Diamond. And now, what was Comic Day? It was Tuesdays before, right?
Comic Day is on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
But we also just missed Free Comic Book Day, which was the first Saturday of this month.
Yeah, well, now apparently, since they're going through a couple other third-party distributors to make sure they can still get some comics out. Mm-hmm. I don't know when the date is that they're going to try to do that if they haven't already started, but that's supposed to be Wednesdays now, I think.
It's always Wednesday. New release Wednesdays.
Tuesday. Sorry. Okay. I'm getting the day confused.
It's okay. I just said that the 20th, which is next Wednesday, there is releases coming out for Image. Most of it looks like it's going to be trades and volumes right now, which is bigger books. It's a little bit easier, I guess, if you already have them scheduled, because those are done in advance. Volumes and trades are usually 1 to 5 or 6 issues that are already printed. So if you already did 1 to 6 and now you're putting out 7 and 8 next week, then you could buy the volumes because they're already completed.
You can see right here. Okay, I found where they're Bleeding Cool. They were discussing with DC, the whole deal about changing the comic book day. Why Tuesday? Especially because they were working. Everybody was distributing through Diamond. Now, what's going on with that? And they said, yes, Tuesday on sale allows us to sync up release dates across all markets. Retailers are free to sell DC products when they receive them on Tuesdays. Retailer can also continue to sell new DC products starting on Wednesdays, should that work best for their stores and clientele. And they were like, well, does this does this title shipping, via Lunar and UCS eventually be available through Diamond as well? And they're like, they still said yes, there is going to be Diamond as well. And they asked, was it necessary to zero out, your orders at Diamond? And apparently they were scheduled to be on sale April 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd to ensure that you don't receive double orders and all that. So I guess it's a little iffy right now, and that's definitely going to impact
it's going to impact the
distributor.
smaller businesses because they're already impacted as comic
They're
book
already
shops.
in trouble.
Unless you're a comic book shop that does signings, events, or other things in that, you're already in trouble. Yeah. That's just the truth of it, because people are able to easily buy stuff online. People read digital comics, which I don't understand why. You should be reading fucking physical copies. It's so much nicer. But also people are just, ordering it from the internet. And so I like to personally wait until I can go get all my comics. Usually I go to the place next to my hair salon or something like that, and I buy all my backlog. You have people who have boxes at comic book shops where they say, okay, I'm reading these 12 comics. I want them every time they come out. They go and they pick up their box when it's ready. You know what I mean? So now the comic book shops are buying everything for that box, and there's nobody to come pick it up because everybody's closed, so they're losing out on that money, and that's for hundreds of people and different businesses, and it's really fucking hard.
Yeah. And the problem also is right before this quarantine happened and during the quarantine, most of the stuff that was getting released through Marvel and DC was not liked among the community. I mean, we saw it. Even people that weren't comic book fans were starting to finally see backlash from the comic book community.
Yeah.
On what's going on. I think even, what was it, Marvel shut down, and they're not putting the new Warriors in this new release when they do their new comics.
No idea.
Because they're only saying they're doing the 2020 Ironheart. The rest of it's just continuations of stuff they were already working on. Same with DC. There's no mention really of, that Gotham High book that they had done, and any other new series really. They got it. It's mostly... I don't know. I'm seeing mostly continuations. I'm not seeing so much new stuff.
It's a hard time for comic book shop owners. It's a hard time for creators in the comic book world. It's just hard overall, and I hope that we can get things back to normal, because I just want to read comics.
Which is weird, because we would think it would be a good time. Everything that's being done right now is being done through shipping, so we would think that comics would still be bouncing around and that people would still be making comics, because that is a good way to social distance that kind of job. A lot of people work from home. They're in private offices, things like that. A lot of people that are in that industry can generally say that they spend a lot of time cooped up.
All that matters to me is Brian K. Vaughan posted that he's been writing more Saga at home during quarantine, and I'll take it. That's all that matters.
That's awesome.
Yes, I'm ready for it. It's going to be a while before we see it because of all the shit that's going on right now, but that's all I'm looking forward to at this moment.
Yeah, there's the only thing, let's see, I'm not seeing, the new stuff that I showed, just continuations. Rogues Gallery, Dreaming, lame.
Doesn't matter.
Nobody cares.
Well, we would like to know what you guys would like to see from the comic book industry after quarantine, or even during quarantine, and actually I just want to know what you guys want to do when this is all over. Yeah,
I mean, right now this is really putting a lot of constraint on our ability to watch and review things too. Now we're being so much more particular over what we pick to watch, because there's a lot less to watch, although we're at home and can watch a lot more. The new stuff is a lot more limited. So we're trying to really find something that's going to be good, and especially with the way things are looking for the comics. I mean, will there be much to review for comics for a while? Will we kind of have to take a break on most of our regular reading for a while until things pick back up?
You don't really read anything. I read everything.
I haven't read much in a while. I started after they kind of dissed Batman Beyond and a couple other things I was trying to keep up with. I just was like,
no, I get it. But yeah, that might be an issue. We'll see how things go overall.
Yeah.
I don't think that we have much else to talk about, though. No.
No, I think that just about covers everything.
Awesome.
One other thing that I'm going to throw in there just for fun is I have been playing, I bought the Apple Arcade subscription. And I started playing a game called Oceanhorn 2. I originally played Oceanhorn 1, which was a little bit of a mock-up. high definition version of the old school overhead style Zelda, but like kind of 3D looking, and it was really fun, really good, pretty impressive. This game, way over the top. If you're a Zelda fan and you like that Breath of the Wild, that's the newest one, right? Whatever that one, that game was garbage. I hated it.
You didn't play it all the way, so you can't say it's garbage.
Well, I sat for hours walking around in empty fields of nothing with no voiceover work, no wildlife, no life, no noise, no nothing.
All you did was temples. You didn't do anything else in the game.
You can play old-ass Skyrim and go and talk to a guy in the woods after journeying through nothing for an hour, and he'll just have a full conversation with you. Like, crazy stuff. The fact that they don't take advantage of that is crazy. And this game, for an iPad game, has everything. Great voiceover work, huge world to go through, lots of puzzles, lots of cool stuff. The game plays great. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to get way more into the Apple Arcade games while we're stuck and see what kind of new stuff is out in that world, because I'm not seeing much besides announcements for next-gen systems, which I don't know.
It does nothing for me. I don't care. There's nothing good out right now.
Yeah. The new Unreal Engine announcement for PS5 looks awesome, but no cool games. So whatever.
I think that's everything we have to say this week.
Yeah.
Thank you to our ghouls and geeks for listening. If you want to listen to more episodes of the podcast for the recently released, we have 50 previous episodes that you can listen to directly on our website. You can find our social media links as well as other ways to listen. You know, we have SoundCloud, Spotify, literally everything you can think of.
Google Play,
Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, all these different ways to listen. So if you want to go check us out on there, you can also find our web store. JoeBot Shop is making new things on there. Some Animal Crossing pins, some stickers, new t-shirts.
Yeah, we got pins, keychains.
Facial masks right now, which are really, useful during this quarantine time.
Yeah, maybe we'll start some of our episodes like the briefings on TV. We'll come in with our masks on. We'll take our mask off. We'll have our boxed water. We'll put it back on, when we say bye and everything. We'll make it real legit.
There you go.
A little news briefing at the bottom.
So if you're looking for any merch, like I just said, check out joebotshop.com. My web store is also open at the moment. It's louisstardust.com. You can get Vampirella comics and other goodies on there. But for now, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to yet another episode of Podcast for the Recently Released. If you want to peep some of our older episodes, we've got a ton of them. Just check us out on podcastfortherecentlyreleased.com. We've got merch, older episodes, links for other ways to listen to us, and more. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Don't let your meatloaf. Stay safe out there, guys.